Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Dash 2 Podcast. I am your host, Logan, and today we are here with
Mike. What's up, everybody?
Big pod today, lots of stuff going around the league. We're going to start off with some World Juniors, get into the Nyland extension, some Cutter Gauthier bullshit. What else we got on the docket here? Injury bug, a little Hartman Perfetti beef, and then the wild card's a shit show. So we will be getting into that after the break. All right, so we're here with our World Juniors correspondent. Gold medal game was last Friday, and Team USA took it home with a 6-2 W over Sweden. Michael, what did you think about this game?
I mean, I loved it. That whole USA team was like so unbelievably stacked. Probably one of the most stacked teams the World Juniors have ever seen. It was so fun to watch. I'm honestly like really sad that it's over because it was nice just to wake up, watch hockey till 3:00 in the afternoon, and then have the NHL games on right afterwards. But yeah, I mean, USA killed it. Props to Sweden for making it to the gold medal game, their home country hosting, which was awesome to see, and their rival country, Finland, not placing at all, which was pretty funny to me. I don't like the Finns, but yeah, overall, great tournament, and a lot going on, a lot of good prospects.
So the Finns, I'm happy you brought that up. An all-time choke, right?
Big
in the
time
bronze medal
choke.
game. 5-2 going into the third, and then they end up losing 8-5 against the Czech Republic.
Yeah, the Czech scored 6 goals in one period, which is unheard of. I mean, we always see like super high scores in the World Juniors. Like, you know, the division of talent is pretty, you know, up and down. But I mean, props to the Czechs. Like they're nasty, and it's really cool. Like being a Bruins fan and having all these people, all these players from Czechia, you know, rising through the ranks and becoming NHL superstars. And, you know, I hope to see that in the future, especially with some of these kids that were on the Czech team.
Yeah, the Bruins are definitely like Czech light between all the guys that they have, especially last year. Krejci, Pasta, Lauko, Zaka, and I'm sure we'll end up with more at some point because they love each other.
Even in the past, like Yager, I'm trying to think who else, but definitely a very Czech heavy franchise the Bruins are.
Yes, those are our favorite Eastern Europeans for sure. Back to the gold medal game, kind of a bloodbath in the end, right?
It was awesome, and some people love to see it, some people don't love to see it. It's, you know, it's however you prefer to watch your hockey. Personally, I'm kind of neutral on how that went because, you know, you want to show respect to the hosting country and like these players that some of them play on the same team in college or, you know, juniors, like they know each other. It's not just like these are random people that you're going up against, like, and just like a big fuck you match. Like there's respect and there's a lot of talent out there, but definitely crazy to see, especially like in a league where you obviously cannot fight. There's blood squirting everywhere, punches being thrown. It was insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, though, where everybody's so prideful that, I mean, everybody wants to win for their country. It's kind of like the biggest badge of honor that you can get. It's why Olympic hockey is so fun when the pros play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as much as it was Team USA, like, you know, selling hard, blowing kisses to the crowd and shit like that, which I fucking love. The more personality in the game, the better.
Yeah.
For me, at least. I love
totally
the douchebag cockiness. But I definitely think Sweden ended up making it more of an issue than it should have been.
I think at that point, you just kind of like make a fool of yourself. Like, yeah, you want to like defend yourself and, you know, this is your country, like you're hosting the tournament, but you're losing 6-1 in the gold medal game. Like at that point, I think you just suck it up.
Yeah, I mean, like, if the fans are all booing, obviously the team that's winning, especially when they're getting booed and they lost a gold medal at the U18s. Like they already hate each other, and then getting booed is probably like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
But
USA is going to thrive off that. I think they said in one of the pregame interviews that they were like, we love getting booed. Like, make it rain. Like, let's go.
yeah, especially like, I mean, everybody hates America basically. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the more hate, the better. Pile it on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that big motherfucker on Sweden getting into a 6'3" dude gets into a fight with Lane Hudson, who's like 5'8". Like,
yeah. Not a good look at all.
yeah, and like Hudson's a skill player. He was already busted open from a missed high stick, and then just ends up throwing him to the ice and just causing a shit show.
And
But I mean, it's kind of pathetic. Like
it makes Hudson look like a badass and just like raises his value so much. And
oh
then
my god, yeah.
I bet scouts like I don't really think scouts want to see that. I think they want to see like a lot of poise, like calmness and professionalism from these kids. So I mean, Hudson's value raised. Whoever that kid on Sweden was, might get
Dropped.
overlooked or dropped or who knows.
It's like there was that Rangers prospect a few years ago, Elias Anderson. They lost to Canada on Canada's home ice, and then he takes his silver medal and he throws it over the boards.
Oh yeah, that's a horrible look.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. It's like you just look like such a bitch. And that kid, I don't think has still cracked an NHL lineup. Like
yeah,
he got traded to LA and he still hasn't played. So
it reminds me of that clip that like you ever see, I don't know if it was like a high school game or a juniors game, some kid, like it was right after Jack Hughes did the throw the stick in the crowd thing.
Oh yeah.
Some kid just scored like a dusty garbage like rebound goal, throws a stick in the crowd. Like you just look like a fucking loser at that point.
There's definitely levels to it. It's definitely like
it's 100% level.
Yeah, if it's a nasty walk-off OT winner, sure. But if you get like a fucking backdoor tap in, like there's no way you're allowed to do that.
That's such a bad look.
It is pretty bad. So now that you've watched a shit ton of amateur hockey and we went to a college hockey game, we were talking about this. Amateur hockey, is it better than professional hockey?
100%. I mean, there's so much more action. There's been like a lot more personality coming through the game. Like I think about a forward like Isaac Howard. Like when I was watching the 2022 draft, I was like, who is this clown like coming in thinking that
USA
he's like,
belt buckle?
Yeah, tough shit, like owns the draft. He gets drafted in the first round, last pick by Tampa. And I didn't really know who he was at that point, but then he comes into this game, scores 2 goals, tied for the most goals in the whole tournament this year. And now he just looks like a rock star, and his value is going to skyrocket. And Tampa does not need another
I know, fuck Tampa
forward.
They don't need anything more.
That happen. Yeah, but I think he has a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, and like I don't know, between all the goal scoring, like I would like to see as many breakaways as possible throughout a game. And I mean, the more penalties, the better, because you get more power plays. So, definitely amateur hockey is kind of one of those things where once you start watching it, you're like, why isn't it always like this?
I know, exactly.
So, two ways that we can bring it. We can go to the Nylander extension, or we can hit the Cutter shit. Because we're talking about the juniors.
Yeah, I think going into Cutter would be a good segue. He was named the best forward of the World Juniors tournament. He scored the game-winning goal against Finland. Disgusting player, like so fun to watch.
And the tournament in points too, right?
I don't know about that. I wouldn't be surprised. Like that kid was all over the ice. He was so good. Kind of interesting stuff to see off the ice with the Flyers, if you want to dive into that a little deeper.
I mean, so I'll get into the timeline here because I wrote this shit down because it was crazy.
Okay.
So I was sitting on my phone and I was doing my little tiki-taki videos, my little breakout vids, and I'm fucking sitting there and I get a notification from Frank Saravalli that's like, because I have my notifications on for all like the reporters. And it was like Cutter Gauthier traded for Jamie Drysdale in a second-round pick. And like my jaw dropped immediately, took a screenshot, sent it in the group chat right away. And we were all like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah.
3 minutes later, another tweet from Frank saying that Cutter basically told the Flyers he's going to refuse to play there. Then Danny Briere goes on like an hour later and is like, Cutter told us at the draft he was built to be a Flyer and wanted to be a Flyer. And then within a few months, he decided that he no longer wanted to be a part of the franchise. Then we have Keith Jones during an intermission saying, again, if you don't want to be a Flyer, you won't be a Flyer.
Yeah.
Then we have the CEO again going, he feels bad for Cutter, and then said, I really don't feel bad for him. Philly doesn't forget, and we want players who want to be here. Then a reporter dunks all over him again and says that Cutter's career is ruined, and then blames Kevin Hayes for it. Completely baseless claim. Kevin Hayes then calls him a clown and says that that's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
Tort's post-game presser says he doesn't know Cutter from a hole in the wall, and that he would prefer to have players that want to be there.
I've never heard that saying before in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of random. I don't think
it's like an old dude thing to say.
And then Kevin Hayes comes out the next day and is like, hey, thanks, reporter. Everybody was sending me death threats, threatening my family, and saying that people were glad that his brother was dead. So stay classy, Philadelphia, as always. And Torts last night called out that reporter at a post-game presser. He was like, who's that clown that brought up Kevin Hayes? And then he shit all over that guy.
The dude was like, I am.
He owned it too. He was like,
just like, he
knows my
sounded
name.
like the smallest human being on earth. It was so sad.
I know. It's like, it's always the reporters that are just like, they look like rats that do shit like that. You're like, you're a fucking loser.
But
so absolutely crazy stuff. Cutter basically said that he just doesn't want to be a part of the franchise from sources say, which is Rear Admiral. He said that it was because of a rookie GM and the coaching style.
I mean, that's interesting. I coming into this, I didn't know that he didn't go to dev camp. So
that was a bit of a shock to me as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that beforehand. So at first I was kind of like defending him, like, and right now, obviously, his values is very high.
They sold at the perfect time.
This is going to be like the highest his value's ever going to be, which I disagree with completely. I think he's going to be a very good NHL player, and the Ducks aren't that great, but that's a hard roster to make. And once he gets on NHL ice, I think that's him like proving his worth. And I think the Ducks are going to be nasty and are better off with him rather than Drysdale in a second round, whatever pick. But I still do feel a little bad for him, even though it's like any day in the NHL is a good day. Like you gotta like be thankful to be an NHL player and be grateful that you had the skill and the talent and all these people around you that wanted you to get there, and you got there, you got drafted. But I guess maybe I'm a little biased because I don't like Philadelphia, but
Yeah. So, all right. I mean, like when you take a look at things, Torts is probably the last coach that you would want as a rookie.
Yeah.
You have to be a certain kind of player. Like Michael Dalzotto, he had an interview with Chicklets a couple weeks ago where he was like, if I didn't have Torts, like I probably wouldn't have been in the NHL for as long as I was.
Yeah.
So you got to be cut from a certain cloth. And I mean, from all the interviews that I've seen of Cutter, he seems like a bit of a Zegras type. Like he kind of seems like an airhead. And I don't imagine that he probably would have done too well in the Tort system. Like he's a big guy and he plays hard.
Yeah.
But if you're not there mentally for Torts, you're going to be fucked. I mean, look at half the roster that got shipped out last year. Like if you weren't his guy, he didn't want you.
Yeah. So like coming from like an ice time perspective, maybe that was a concern. And you got to like take into account, like, it's not just like the player making these statements and decisions. He has a whole team behind him. His agent probably like spearheaded this whole thing. And maybe Cutter was like, yeah, I don't really want to be a Flyer. And then his agent was like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. But you never know like what's going on behind the scenes, even behind the reports.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Like I'm sure there is outside influence. He cited he did an interview with the Ducks podcast today, and he cited that it was like a family decision, which he didn't expound upon it, which obviously he doesn't have to,
Mhm.
but he did cite that it was like a whole crew decision for him. I just think it's one of those things where it kind of ends up being like it's going to have like an asterisk on his career to start. Like, especially going to a new franchise, like kind of a bad look demanding a trade before you even play for a team. It's different. Like you look at the Eric Lindros situation, which he told the team that drafted him, like Quebec drafted him first overall. He told them specifically, I'm not playing for you, so don't bother. They did it anyways, and then he didn't play for 2 years. So he gets shipped off to Philadelphia for a fucking haul. So that happened.
Mhm.
But you look at it from a standpoint of like Eric Lindros was like a generational talent. I think Cutter will be a borderline elite guy, but I don't think that he's going to be good enough where you can look back and be like, yeah, he can demand a trade.
Yeah, I mean, what pick was he? 7th or
He was a fifth,
5th? Okay, I mean, that's very high.
especially when you're the guy that was like, not only like I was born to be I was built to be a flyer. Like for you to blow smoke up a GM's ass like that and then just fucking like peace out like a year later, that's gonna be that's tough. That is a tough look.
Yeah, but you also got to think. I mean, that's kind of what you got to say. Like, you can't like at first, like you can't like have any opinions on where you go. Like
I mean,
when you're getting drafted, I feel like every team in the NHL should be your favorite team, and wherever you go, like.
well, I mean, if you're gonna like, he was a Pittsburgh Penguins fan.
But
His
his
favorite
mom's from
player was Sid.
Philadelphia, which
Yeah,
was
so it's like,
crazy.
why even bother lying? Like, they're not gonna fucking whip you. Like, your favorite player was the best player in the league. Like,
Yeah,
that's usually how it goes, right?
yeah,
So, I don't think that that's anything that you need to lie about. Um, but I do think, like, you look at Mitchkov. Like, Mitchkov told the Yotes because the Yotes had the pick before the Flyers did. The Flyers picked Mitchkov last year, and he told the Yotes, he said, "Don't draft me because I'm not coming."
but he's Russian.
Like, yeah, he is Russian, so it's a
Yeah,
little different. But I mean, like, if you have the opportunity, like, you can make these decisions. If you just are straight up honest and you're like, I don't like where your team's positioned, and I don't think that I'm going to play well there, so don't draft me. Like, you're doing the team a favor and you're doing yourself a favor. You can just get there anyways.
yeah. Although that is a really hard conversation to have.
Yeah, I guess especially as like a fucking child, like
Yeah,
17 years old, talking
right.
to legends. But I also think it is important too. Like, he literally cut off everybody on. Like, he didn't talk to Patrick Sharp. He wouldn't talk to Keith Jones. He wouldn't talk to Danny Briere. He wouldn't talk to Torts. Like, legends of the game, he was just like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's where like your professionalism gets like questioned, and I feel like that should be the brunt of the discussion. Like, not like all of this outside bullshit. I feel like it should just be like the fact that he didn't have the balls to go, have that conversation afterwards and talk to
Yeah.
those people.
And that's what I think that's my like real issue with it. It's just
Yeah.
like, if you're gonna put a team in a position that spent a 5th-round pick on you in like a spot like that where they have to ship you off, you kind of do look like a huge bitch if you
Yeah.
just don't talk to them, make the agent do it.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as the actual hockey trade, just looking at it from an Anaheim standpoint, it's kind of like a culture reshift, I would say, almost like Pat Verbeek is in his 2nd year as a GM now. Obviously fought with both Drysdale and Zegras in the offseason on their deals. Like, Drysdale didn't get signed until 2 weeks before the season, and then Zegras got signed during training camp. And he was willing to pay Zegras $4 million. Obviously, Z ended up with 6, but I'm sure it was the same deal with Drysdale. Those two are butt buddies, and like by the very definition.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
they lived together, they pissed together, they got a puppy together. Like, just the definition of it. He splits them up, and Zegras has already been struggling this year. So
is
you got that.
Drysdale.
Yeah, and Drysdale hasn't been great
Yeah.
either.
I think he had 6 points when he got traded.
Yeah, and he's an offensive defenseman, so that's kind of his bread and butter.
Yeah.
And he's had injury concerns his whole career. Like last year, he only played 30 games. This year, he's only played like 13. So they ship him off and a second. The second doesn't matter to them. They have so many prospects.
Yeah.
And like the emergence of Pavel Minchikov, I'm sure is a big factor as to why they got rid of him. That kid is sick. And then they have Olin Zellweger in the AHL as well, who's like won World Junior Gold last year. Or who won last year? Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he won last year and he was a stud in the WHL. So like they have prospects in the tank that they don't really need Drysdale. But now they have 4 centers. So you got McTavish, stud, Carlson, injured right now, but has shown that he's got the talent of a second overall pick.
Yeah.
Cutter, and then Zegras. Obviously, they're high on Cutter if they just traded for him.
Yeah.
They just drafted Leo second, and then McTavish is having a breakout year, and Zegras is having the worst start of his career and like has not looked good either. So, do you think that they're going to move off of him?
The Ducks move off of Cutter?
Oh no, Zegras.
Oh, what did he just sign? 2x6?
Either 2 or 3, but it's definitely $6 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just need to see how their team like develops. I mean, they're struggling right now, but they have so much young talent that in a couple years they could be Stanley Cup contenders.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where their issue is like veteran leadership. Like Cam Fowler's been there for a long time. They just brought in Alex Killorn.
Yeah, Gibby.
But as far as like they're pretty young team.
Yeah.
And Zegras doesn't play defense at all. He's a center. And I think maybe you could look for them to flip him for a vet that's out there. Like Jake Gensel is somebody that is on an expiring deal. The Penguins are struggling. And I think if the Penguins find themselves like deep outside of the playoffs, they might be willing to move him. So you could look to maybe put Zegras in that trade. I mean, I don't know how much value he holds around the league with the struggles that he's had this year.
Yeah, certainly not Getzel value at all.
Yeah, you definitely have to slap another prospect and a pick on there. So keep that in mind. And then I think an interesting one would be like Stammer for Zegras. I don't know how they make that. I don't know how they make that work cap wise. Like it would work for this year, and Tampa would have to figure it out for next year.
Yeah,
but you get a young center who like Stamkos at the beginning of his career struggled with Tampa till like his third year, and he really found his stride. So maybe you do that swap. You get a veteran Stanley Cup champion Stammer coming into a young Ducks team. You get that leadership. He can help McTavish come along and become more of a stud.
Yeah,
he's got all the tricks. He's slowing down as a center, so you can stick him on a wing. That shot's not going to go away. And I think that could be a good move for both teams.
They should just re-sign Corey Perry.
True. Corey Perry is eligible to be re-signed. Doesn't matter how drunk you get and how much ass you grab. You can stay in the NHL. Doesn't matter. All right. Philly. I mean, Drysdale, he's a great locker room guy, loved by the team, by the Ducks. Everybody loved him. Has like the pedigree from being on a bunch of good Canadian teams as a kid, and has been pretty good in the NHL since he's shown up. I think his worst case is like a Torrey Krug type.
Yeah.
He's a bit undersized, very offensive. He's going to be able to play power play 1 and move the puck, but struggle a little bit defensively. And they get a second round pick, and the Ducks aren't good. So it'll be like high 30s.
Yeah.
Which they just need more prospects. So, I mean, losing Cutters sucks because he's a borderline elite talent, but getting somebody with the upside of Drysdale and a second is definitely like a good replacement for that. And they're in a playoff hunt, so they get another body right now that they can use for the rest of the season. So,
yeah, I'd say overall win-win, both teams.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I mean, Anaheim's got the assets, so they don't need to worry about the hole on defense. So, Nylander, Willy Stiles gets a nice 8-year, $11.5 million contract. The Leafs are currently paying Austin Matthews $13.25 million next year, William Nylander, $11.5 million. John Tavares, $11 million. Mitch Marner, $10.9 million. And Morgan Riley, $7.5 million. So just shy of it's like just over $55 million in cap.
It's more than half of their cap.
More than half
in
cap.
4 players.
5 if you count
5,
Riley.
Yeah.
So tough. Very tough.
Yeah, but good for Willy. He, signed a great deal. He's having
he certainly
start
deserved
to a career year. I saw in an interview with him, because there were a lot of questions like, where is he going to sign? Where is he going to go? What's the next move for Toronto? Are they keeping Marner? And he said that Toronto was like the longest he's ever like lived in one place his whole life.
Yeah, his dad was in the NHL, so that would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I think that's really cool, and that's really humbling that like he wants to stay there and he wants to be a Leaf, and he seems like the type of guy who loves the limelight.
Yeah, like I would say the big dogs out there definitely love the spotlight. Like, Marner clearly loves it. Matthews is the definition of a camera whore, so he loves it. So they got their guys definitely. I think, they got to pay JT and Marner next year, which is kind of when the decision needs to be made. So as far as like career wise, Nylander obviously this season has 57 points, 38 games. He's been out of his tits. And career wise, him and Marner have like the same amount of games played, give or take like 5 games. And Willy is sitting at 467 points, and Marner is sitting at 598.
Wow.
So career-wise, like Mitch has been the guy.
Yeah.
And even this year, like he's still got 44 points, 38 games.
Yeah, so, but I also feel like Marner like wants to establish himself as like the best player on a single team and be like a leader in the NHL, because he kind of gets like overshadowed or undershadowed, I don't know what the fucking word is, but by like the amount of talent that's on the Leafs right now.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think when Nylander was in the earlier years, it was easier for him to be like, it was Matthews, Marner, and then Tavares.
Yeah.
But now since like Willy's popped up, and Willy's like, I don't know, I think Willy's way cooler than Mitch.
Oh, me too.
So, I mean, as far as like just like league buzz, like I would rather talk about William Nylander than Mitch Marner any day.
Yeah.
And he's always been like, he has been great. And I think in order for the Leafs to get better, I think they need to get rid of one of these guys, whether you you have to trade them, whether you trade them for like future assets or current assets. The way that this team is constructed as is hasn't worked. We're at year 5? We were in college when this started, right? When they started making the playoffs, and then they made it out of the first round once.
Yeah, they're still in that like we need to win right now phase.
Yeah, and like obviously Tavares would be the guy that they would like to trade at this cap hit, but nobody's going to take that.
And you can't get rid of your captain.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
Yeah.
As far as like Marner, like he could get a huge return. Like a team.
Oh yeah.
A team that's struggling, like Calgary, like they have guys on their roster right now that they want to offload. And then even if like, then they get Marner back. So probably trade like Marner in a first. You could get like Lindholm, Tanev, and then like a prospect in return.
Yeah, so you could literally get like a whole line.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like you get the hard-nosed D-man that you've needed.
Yeah.
You get a two-way center. So now you have fucking like Matthews, Lindholm, Tavares, 3-headed monster down the middle, and then you get a prospect. And then Calgary, because he's on an expiring deal at the next trade deadline or at the draft, whenever, you're going to flip Mitch again and get even more assets.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like you can change the trajectory. Holy fuck, man.
You got it.
Trajectory of your franchise just from that one move.
Yeah.
And like you keep 4 of the 5 guys, and then Tavares is getting older. So like next offseason, he signs like a team-friendly deal. And if he's not ready to sign a team-friendly deal, you fucking say, see you later. Thanks for nothing. You didn't win shit with us.
Yeah. I mean, at that point in your career, you can't not sign a team-friendly deal if you want to stay with one team that has a chance of winning a Stanley Cup.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, Bergeron did it over and over again. So
yeah, and they don't owe him shit.
No.
Like you came here, you did okay. Like he's kind of been like either just below point per game or at point per game since he came over, and hasn't won anything. Like no awards, no. They won the President's Trophy once. Like none of that means anything. So, any other moves that you could think that they could make off this, like, or do you think that's pretty much it? Just getting rid of Marner and trying to figure it out that way.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to ship him off to like a non-playoff team that's still in a rebuild. Like, I feel like that'd be kind of a crazy move because like the assets aren't there. I don't know.
Yeah, like this team can't. The thing that sucks is like usually you trade off these guys when you're trying to build for the future, but this team can't build for the future.
Yeah, they're in their future right now.
Yeah, like they need it now. So it's definitely one of those things where it's hard. Like you don't know what move to make.
Yeah.
So we got the injury bug around the league right now. At that point, like we're half the season pretty much gone by at this point.
Yep.
So people are starting to drop. Connor Bedard skated directly into the elbow of Brendan Smith and broke his jaw. And he will be
directly into 3 defenders with his head down.
Yeah, it was a real like I'm 12 years old and nobody can hit me yet move.
Yeah.
Just head down, barrel into the zone. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, which feels like a lot. I mean, I've seen people play with broken jaws, so maybe they're just being cautious. Like they want a tank anyways. They want Celebrini, so you might as well just keep him out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he could probably play with it at like week 4, but obviously they're being safe because he's the golden boy.
That puts a big question mark in the rookie race right now.
Yeah, exactly. So we got Fantilli, Brock Faber. I would say Carlson to a lesser extent because he's been injured. I mean, Potts, but he's kind of dropped off as well.
Yeah.
Leo Carlson. I already said Carlson, right?
Yep.
Trying to think who else.
I don't know. I'm pulling for Brock Faber.
I think Brock Faber deserves it. Honestly.
I do too.
And he looks like a number 1 defenseman already.
Oh yeah.
Like back-to-back 30-minute nights playing top pairings. Like he's not hiding at all.
No.
And every time I try and watch the Wild, I do like really focus in on his shifts, like his gap control and like his ability to get like play physically while being smart is pretty impressive for a guy who's only been in the league for 6 months, 8 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would probably put some money on him, especially with Bedard out right now. Like Fantilli has kind of picked it up as of late with like points and all that shit, but I do think that Faber still has it.
Yeah, me too.
As far as Bedard being out, I would like to redo the starting lineup for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Okay.
First line center, Philip Kurashev. Right wing, Taylor Radish. Left wing, Rem Pitlick. Second line center, Jason Dickinson. Right wing, Joey Anderson. Left wing, Colin Blackwell. Third line center, Mackenzie Entwistle. Right wing, Cole Gutman. Left wing, Lucas Reichel. Fourth line center, Zach Sanford. Right wing, Ryan Donato. Left wing, Boris Kachuk.
That's an AHL team.
Their best offensive player is Jason Dickinson.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. Never heard of him.
I cannot believe how bad. Even the defense is bad. Seth Jones is injured right now.
Halsey's injured.
So Jared Tenorti, Connor Murphy, Alex Vlasic, Jacob Megna, Kevin Korchinski, and Nikita Zaitsev. Like the Sharks have more talent than this.
Yeah, I agree.
This might be the worst NHL team to ever touch the ice.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Like the tank for Bedard, we thought they were tanking for Bedard last year. Like what would you call this?
They're tanking for 2 first rounders now.
Yeah, like if there was if they had all three of the like worst odds, I would understand icing this lineup.
Mhm.
Like this is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll move over to another injury. Jack Hughes is going to be out for like a couple weeks. They're thinking like 3 or 4. He same game as Bedard, took a tumble, like a weird fall. He also was trying to go through 4 people at once and then ended up on the ground.
Yeah.
Seems like a real epidemic, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But the Devils have kind of struggled all year. They have a bunch of players out right now. Dougie Hamilton he's questionable for the rest of the season. He's possible for playoffs. Jonas Siegenthaler out for the season with a broken foot. Timo Meyer injured right now. Andre Palat injured right now, and Thomas Nosek injured right now. They're all out.
What about Heischer?
I think he's playing right now. I think he's
okay.
So they've had the injury bug all year. Obviously, they were kind of the standout team last year. Came out hot. Really, everybody took the league by surprise, pretty much. And then they've taken a huge step backwards, and they have no goaltending help whatsoever.
Nope.
And now they're out their best player.
They're screwed.
Yeah, there legit is probably like no outcome.
I don't think they're going to make playoffs.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at the wild card standings right now.
Yeah.
They're currently third in the wild card race, 1 point down from Tampa Bay. But as we will get to shortly, almost every single team in the East is within a point or 5 of the wild card spot.
Yeah, there are 4 teams in the East sitting at 44 points right now. The Penguins, Caps, Devils, and Red Wings.
So if you take a shit for 3 games, you might be out of it. Like,
yeah,
that's where we're at in the season. So having Jack Hughes be out is obviously a huge hole on top of the other injuries. It's almost like a season from hell. And then you start to look at Lindy Ruff and you think, like, are they willing to fire him after, they just give him an extension? He had a great year last year, and then there's injuries this year. But, I mean, the injury shit usually doesn't save coaches from getting fired.
I think they got to hold on. I think he's doing a good job with that team.
Yeah, I mean, who else are you going to hire? Like, the revolving door of coaches. Like, there's a reason why all these guys get fired all the time. They come in, they make an impact for a season, and then they get shit canned. It's like Peter Laviolette. Like, teams will fucking take him back twice before hiring someone new. So I'm sure Lindy will probably stay there for at least another year unless they stink it up again.
I agree.
Linus Ullmark went down in the Frog the other night in overtime against the Coyotes and then never got back up. The Bruins have not looked great recently.
2-game skid, 3-game skid?
2 or 3. And even the games that they have won, they haven't looked great either.
Yeah.
That Tampa game from Saturday last week was pretty ugly as well.
It was fun to watch. It was like watching a juniors game.
Yeah. So obviously Ullmark goes down, Swayman comes in cold, and then they lose to the Yotes in overtime.
Yeah.
People have been all over Pasta for his shootout attempt where he just lazily took a shot.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did that earlier this year and he scored like top titty and everybody went crazy. So I mean, if there's one thing about Pasta with how much we've watched him, there's games where he's the greatest player alive, and then there's games where he turns over every single puck he touches.
Yeah, like his goal against the Yotes was a fucking snipe. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was disgusting. That was a rip. It's kind of been a weird couple of weeks as well, as far as like players like Trent Frederick all of a sudden looks like he's a top 6 forward who's going to be a great player for a long time in this league.
Yeah.
Jake DeBrusk has been revived a little bit. Like he's starting to pick up his play, but I'm sure it'll disappear again like it always does.
Yeah.
Matt Grzelcyk is dog shit.
Not looking great.
Yeah, he looks like Mike Riley.
Which is a tough person to be compared to.
Yeah, that's not great. I mean, Grizz at one point was like a legit like two-way D playing with McAvoy, but now he's playing bottom pairing with like Kevin Shattenkirk, and he looks more washed than Chatty does, and Chatty's like 36.
Chatty's putting up goals though.
Yeah, he is. I like the Bruins they're good. They're still first. I don't know how. Yeah. Potts just got back from the World Juniors, got injured again. Brandon Carlo just got injured. So I think we're about to see if the Bruins really have it or not. Connor Geeky and like Charlie Coyle have really stepped up, which is nice to see. Oh, fuck. Connor. Geeky. Fuck.
It's all good. It's all good.
Morgan. Same brother. They're brothers. Yeah. It's the same thing. And we were talking about the Yotes prospect. Boom.
Okay.
Fucking dug myself out of that grave. So yeah, Bruins, I don't know. It doesn't look great to me. I'm sure we'll end up like second, and then we'll play the Leafs in the first round, and then we'll get to crush some dreams again, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
That would be my ideal matchup. That's all I want. I just want to hear Toronto cry.
I think right now we'd be paired up with I thought I saw the Islanders the other day.
But I think it's whoever's second right now.
Okay.
In the wild card.
So Isles, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be fun. Florida is like quietly like sneaking up the standings.
They have 54 points.
Well, I feel like nobody's talking about them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like fucking Kachuk's been quiet, but I mean, he just fucking broke his sternum. So
yeah, I mean, he had a hat trick against the Blues the other night.
Yeah.
I think he's had like 12 points in his last couple games, so he's starting to wake up, which is scary for the East.
Yeah, dude, I saw there's like people on Twitter like trying to call him out. They're like, if he was a Toronto Maple Leaf, like people wouldn't say the end of this. Like, okay, like if you guys made a cup final, we wouldn't hear the end of it, but you can't do that. So
right.
I mean, it's not his fault. He plays in a small market, and he fucking broke his sternum, right?
Which is a crazy injury to come back from.
And he played through it. Like, imagine trying to breathe with that shit
while skating like 20 miles per hour for like 25 to 30 minutes a night.
Yeah, and he was scoring goals too. Like he scored 2 goals. Like
playing tough, laying people out.
Yeah, like crazy that's the shit that people are saying.
I know.
I don't know if you saw this last night, McDavid, talking about offside reviews.
I did see that. I was on the side.
I mean, it looks like everybody finally made fun of him enough to actually have a personality.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty funny. Like he was like, if we have to spend 15 minutes looking to see if a puck is onside or not, it's probably onside. We should probably just call it.
I mean, I totally agree.
It's the worst part of hockey. It slows everything down, and then you got to sit there and watch these refs like fucking rewind back and forth over and over again, like fractions of a second.
I don't mind the offsides review. Like, if it's offsides, call it offsides, and if it needs to be reviewed, review it. But if it's like right on the line, or if it's gonna take, like McDavid said, 15 minutes to review it, just like fuck it, leave it alone.
I mean, how often are goals really offside?
Exactly, and maybe
if they are, it's like a fraction of an inch.
Maybe less than, I don't know, 15 times a season.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't remember it ever being a problem before the rule was installed. Like,
no,
there was one game I specifically remember. It was like Team USA Slovakia in like 2014. Hossa had a goal, like he carried the puck offsides and then brought it back in, and they missed it. That's the only time I ever remember them like bringing up a puck being offside and a goal scored because of it. Especially the ones that are like 45 seconds go by, goal, and then they're like, oh no, doesn't count. Put the time back on the clock, as if that had anything to do with the goal.
Yeah.
So definitely get rid of that rule, because I'm fucking tired of seeing it, because it sucks. You want to start with the East, or you want to start with the West?
For
the wild card stuff.
Let's start with the East, because I feel like the West is a little more juicy.
Yeah, so we got a whole bunch of teams. Right now, we have the Philadelphia Flyers are third in the Metro with 48 points. And then the Leafs have 49 in the Atlantic for third. And then we have the New York Islanders with 46 points, Tampa Bay Lightning with 45, New Jersey Devils with 44, the Caps with 44, the Pens with 44, the Wings with 44, and even the Habs have 40. So they're not entirely out of it. And the Sabres have 38, so they're not out of it either.
Yeah.
Pretty insane that like everybody is within a stone's throw away from making the playoffs.
It's exciting.
Yeah, I know. And it feels good because I feel like the East last year was just kind of boring. Like there was no surprises.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious who was making playoffs last year.
Yeah. And like, I mean, the only real surprise was Florida making it. And obviously they made a huge splash. But
yeah,
out of these teams, like, who do you see making it? Because at this point, like the Devils have not been great. And Tampa looks like incredibly inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa's definitely up and down. The Wings have also been very up and down. I mean, they're perfectly sitting at 400, 2016 and 4 or 500. But it really is a tough call. I mean, I think the Islanders are always like a very consistent, like let's make playoffs team. So
It makes me so mad.
I hate them, but they've been kind of fun to watch lately. And
they were real fun to watch when they lost 7-1 to the Pens. That was really fun. I really like that.
Yeah. But I don't know. They have Vancouver tonight, which is going to be a good game. But I think the Islanders stick with it. And then I would love to see Tampa not make the playoffs. And I mean, I know the Devils probably won't make it. Who would you see filling in for Tampa? Say Tampa doesn't make it and the Islanders make it.
I think the way that it's like these teams all have major flaws, obviously. Detroit, I don't want to make the playoffs just because they like I kind of want to see Patrick Kane on another team just because I think it'd be more exciting.
Yeah.
But I do think that if they can keep the play that they've had up and they have assets that they're willing to move at the deadline, like they are more of an upside team to me than any of the others. Like I think the Penguins have major flaws all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The Caps are aging, and then the Devils have so many injuries. There's no way that they make it.
Yeah.
But I just see Detroit, like Husso's out right now. That's their number one goaltender. He's obviously going to come back and make a difference. So I can see them like getting a big push from him being back. And then between him, like Patrick Kane's point per game, like Larkin and DeBrincat have been great this season. Even like Kopp and Perron on the third line, like that's a lot of depth.
Yeah.
And if they can bring in like another top 4 defenseman, I could see them going a lot further. Like Jake Wallman is disgusting and nobody talks about him. He's known as like gritty guy, which is peak NHL cringe.
Yeah, so cringe.
But I have him in fantasy and he puts up a lot of points. Like he's a very good 2-way D. So I would say I'd put the Wings in as a second wild card team, and whoever gets them is kind of going to win. I think I don't see them winning the first round, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And then they'll re-sign Patrick Kane going into next year.
Okay, I like that pick.
The West is also another thing that is kind of really close. A little bit more point disparity there. The Central is pretty much locked up as far as standing wise. Like it's a pretty big lead. The Stars are in third with 53 points, and then the next team in the Central has 45. So pretty big gap right there. But the Pacific Division, the Kings have 47 points, and the next closest team is the Edmonton Oilers out from the dead. They have 43 points. The Kraken also have 43 points. The Yotes have 42. The Blues have 41. The Flames have 41. And the Minnesota Wild have 38. And then it falls off a cliff from there.
All those teams, though, have 3 or more games on the Oilers.
Yeah. Which is something the Oilers have a lot of games in hand. So that's going to factor in. The Kings also only have 37 games played. So I'm sure the Kings will make up that point differential as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you don't count the Oilers out of this one. I think the Oilers secure that wild card one. And then for the second wild card, you have, the Yotes with 42 points. Blues 41, Kraken 43, Flames 41. So, I mean, we could see the Kraken getting back in it again, and the Yotes I would love to see, and they do have a game in hand on the Kraken, so who knows?
Yeah. I see like the Flames as like a fake 41 because you
Yeah,
know that they're going to sell. They have so many UFAs coming up. You know they're going to sell.
yeah,
So you can immediately take them out. I think the Blues are frauds. I don't like their team. Bennington has been playing great this year, but he's a douchebag, so we're not going to talk about that.
yeah.
Edmonton is definitely going to end up as that 1 seed. I mean, you can't bet against McDavid and Draisaitl. It's too
No.
hard, especially with Hyman having the year he's having. The goaltending situation is still a bit of a shit show, as well as the defense. But you have the two best players in the world. It's really hard to bet against you
Yeah.
in any capacity. The Yotes are the best team to watch in the league, like bar none. Just excitement all the way through. The Mullet Arena is the best arena in the NHL. We went to a college game. How much different is it?
It's awesome. It was so much fun, and the atmosphere is like
And we're in the Whittemore Center.
unbelievable.
Like,
Yeah,
fucking, they're in it's an NHL team in a college rink.
yeah,
Like all those people getting loud. It's definitely gonna like the guys get going. Logan Cool is exciting. Matthias Michelli is probably one of the most underrated players in the NHL.
yeah.
60-point rookie year last year. Nobody even talks about it. He's undersized and just really skilled.
Mhm.
Clayton Keller, fucking love him. They got a fucking guy with a nickname Big Tuna, which is legit. Like Liam O'Brien. Is it Liam O'Brien? I think so.
I don't know.
Fucking Tuna is a great hockey nickname.
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
don't know what
even
the backstory is, but
Smaltz, Kraus, Moser, Carcone, like all these people
Sean
are
Dursey came
yeah,
over from LA. He's been huge.
Jersey. They're all like super. They just go like undercover because they're all putting up like pretty decent points. It's
Yeah.
just like super under the radar because it's Arizona.
And Vamelka too. Like Vamelka's been like a sleeper
God,
great
yeah.
goalie for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Although I do love the Yotes, I think it ends up being Oilers and Nashville. I don't think it changes.
Okay.
I think Nashville has the assets to bring in another guy at the deadline. O'Reilly's fitting great on that first line. Philip Forsberg has like let the league remember who he is.
Yeah.
It's been a while since anybody's talked about Nashville. Saros, very underrated goalie. I feel like that's the deciding factor. And they have Yaroslav Askarov. That's a hockey name. That is a hockey name. He was a first-round draft pick, KHL goalie. The Russia goalie factory stays strong still.
Oh yeah.
So I think they're probably going to be the ones that are money going into the playoffs. We're going to stick with another topic in the West, the Cole Perfetti and Ryan Hartman situation. It all starts with a Brandon Dillon cross-check to Kirill Kaprizov after a great reverse hit by Kaprizov. Brendan Dillon is a little bitch boy and cross-checks the fuck out of Kaprizov. Now he's injured. He's out week to week. And fucking face off at the next game. Puck drop, Pat Maroon drops the gloves, fights Adam Lowry, gets the crowd going. And then later on in the game, Ryan Hartman just high sticks Cole Perfetti at a face-off. There's a lot of people that kind of lost their shit saying that it was like dirty, irresponsible, like shouldn't be in the game. Where do you stand?
I'm kind of with that. I mean, obviously you hate to see your best player go down like with a dirty hit. Sucks, but settle it with a fight. Don't settle it with like almost taking a guy's eyeball out of his head. Like you got to draw a line there. Like that's a crazy move. I've never seen something like that before.
I do. So Perfetti was kind of like, he said that Hartman told him that he did it on purpose. I guess Perfetti was wearing a wire.
Yeah.
And he kept like asking him and goading him on to give him like to say that he did it on purpose. I do like it. If the league is going to put players in a position where, you know, like Dylan didn't even he probably should have got suspended. Like if you cross-check a guy like once or twice, fine. You do it 3 times in the same spot and then he gets injured, like immediate suspension for me.
Yeah.
And the Department of Player Safety is like the definition of inconsistent. Like nothing gets called the same.
Yeah.
Like the Nick Cousins, like that Nick Cousins incident, he's done it 3 times. He murdered Yuso Valimaki on the Yotes, and then Jason Zucker comes in and then nails him into the boards. Zucker gets suspended, Cousins gets nothing, and then Cousins a pussy on the ice and lays there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the league's not going to step in and do anything about it, like the players have to. But like the game polices the game, it always has. That's what draws everybody into hockey. Like when I was a kid, I remember watching it, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like I couldn't believe that people were like hitting each other like at like 15 miles per hour. And then if somebody hit somebody too hard, like they would beat the shit out of them. Like that was crazy to me.
Yeah.
So like that's what draws people into hockey as a whole. And like it happens. Like that's what makes this game exciting. Like you watch the NBA, you get a fight is like you're a pussy, and then 2 guys like they like throw it up like they're gonna fight, and then the 2 teams pull them apart.
Yeah.
Like if the league's not gonna step in and you feel like your best player was done wrong, if you have to stick somebody for it, like it is what it is.
Okay. No, I can agree with
I'm
that.
sure you've done something shitty to a player because of something that they did to your teammate, right?
Yeah, I can think of a couple things immediately. So yeah, no, I'm with you.
I can think of a shitty thing that I can think so.
Yeah.
I think so. So Nick Cousins, I would say, is the biggest pussy in the NHL.
Yeah.
After all the dirty shit that he's done, he's ended up at the bottom of the pile for a hot minute now. So I think if we can give the Pussy of the Week award, I'm going to give it to him.
Okay.
I would like to do Pussy of the Week for the rest of time, as we just pick one guy to shit on.
Let's do it.
All right, that'll be a thing for next week. We'll have a Pussy of the Week off the top.
Nick Cousins, you get the first one.
Yeah, fuck you, Nick Cousins.
And then we can like draft him at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, tier list. We'll do an S tier pussy.
Yeah.
And then we'll make a nice vagina trophy and we'll ship it out to them. It'll be great. All-Star skills competition or All-Star fucking roster has been announced. The skills comp, they like changed it this year, so it's only going to be 8 guys. They're going to be competing for $1 million, which is great. They needed to do something different because the All-Star game sucks.
Yeah, winning a fucking Honda CRV wasn't a big enough incentive for these guys.
Like, no thanks. They should be bringing back the draft also.
I agree. Yeah. Did the fan votes even come out? I didn't even.
Not yet. They're still working on them.
All right. So they just got like the basic division.
Yeah. So they had the fan vote is still going on. The celebrity draft, it was like always the best part.
Yeah.
Of like just guys picking each other and then doing trades in the middle of it just to like Phil Kessel getting picked last is like all time.
That's hilarious.
Like fucking hot dog Phil sitting there by himself at the end is just perfect. Like nothing's better. Or like Ovi when he was shit faced trying to get that car.
Yeah, I want the car. I want the car.
He's like, don't pick me, please. Don't pick me. Toronto's gonna bring in celebrity captains as well. It looks like Justin Bieber is gonna be one of them. I saw a video today. The Leafs sent him a gigantic teddy bear with the Leafs like Drew logo. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's probably one of the captains.
Yeah.
I look forward to the disappointment of the other celebrities because it's going to be some like deep cut random person.
Some like C-list celebrity.
Yeah, like you're expecting Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
And then you get like fucking Cuba Gooding Jr. from Slay Dogs. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just going to be very disappointed.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to that. The rosters came out. There was a few surprises. Frank Vatrano is a first-time All-Star. Started off with the Bruins and just was known for having that ridiculous wrist shot and then has bounced around everywhere. and has been great this year. Scored a shit ton of goal for the Ducks. Oliver Bjorkstrand for the Seattle Kraken was not excited to be selected. Did you see that video?
I heard about it.
So he like walks into Hackstall's office and he's like, "What are you doing for break for All-Star?" He's like, "Oh, I got an Airbnb in San Diego. Like, we're gonna bring the kids down. We're gonna enjoy the beach. It's gonna be great." And then the coach goes like, "Can you cancel it?" It was just dead silence. He was like, "You're going to Toronto." And it was like, "Oh, great.
Sick.
Such an honor." Like, he was not happy at all. So that was fucking sick. Boone Jenner over Adam Fantilli. Don't get it.
Over Zach Werenski.
I think he's been hurt. So that I can give you a pass on. But like, Gaudreau's still there. I know he sucked this year, but I would give it to the young rookie that people are excited about than Boone fucking Jenner. Like, what is that? And then Cam Talbot got selected from the Kings. All the players on the LA Kings, they picked Cam Talbot. Nice. Classic NHL.
Yeah.
Bedard will not be playing. Jack Hughes also will not be playing. And Artemi Panarin's having a kid, so he said no thank you.
That's a good excuse to get out of the All-Star game.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, especially it sucks anyway, so like what's the point of being there?
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoy the All-Star game, but
I enjoy it when they give a fuck.
Yeah.
But last year's was pretty interesting. They actually cared a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, at one point, like the last year that it was 5-on-5, I remember the game finishing like 17-13.
Yeah, just something stupid.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing here? They need to up it so like every player wins $1 million, and then maybe people will give a fuck. Like, I want to see it's 3-on-3. Like, I'd love somebody to just be a hardo and just start hitting out there.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, maybe an actual back check. That'd be pretty nice too.
Right.
That's all I got. I don't have anything else.
Cool. I'm
you got anything? You good?
Yeah.
All right. So as always, we'll have a new podcast out next week. Follow the TikTok, Instagram, subscribe to the YouTube, subscribe to the podcast feeds, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Yeah, that's all I got. Michael?
Cool. Good to go.
All right. We will see you guys next week for another episode.
Alrighty. Adios.